You're looking at the biggest Yellowstone franchise news in nearly a year. Remember, it was just last August that Tim McGraw, Faith Hill, and Sam Elliott were announced as the stars of 1883. That show would film and air on Paramount Plus over the next 8 months, and frankly, it seems like a distant memory now, albeit a great memory. There is, however, one unresolved plot point. Okay, there are two. The first is whose kid Spencer is, but at this point I think we all just need to assume that James and Margaret Dutton had another kid as they pushed 40 years old. The second is this scene. It was a flashback during an episode of Yellowstone where Tim McGraw's James Dutton returns home after a gunfight and viewers realize he was shot. The camera zooms way out and we hear a crash and Margaret Dutton screaming and we assume the worst, right? I mean, it's Yellowstone. The worst thing you can possibly imagine is usually true, but maybe not. Hey, it's Billy Dukes, and let me explain why it's reasonable to believe that James Dutton lives a long life after that shooting. But first, a big shout out and a thank you to all the subscribers who returned to watch our Yellowstone in 1883 recaps last winter. We'll be back this fall to explore new episodes of Yellowstone, 1883 and 1932, the new Yellowstone prequel. Give me a thumbs up if you're a fan of all of it. In a second, I can share some news about the Kevin Costner series. It's good news, really good news. On May 17th, we learned that Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren will star in the Prohibition-era TV show 1932. And I personally love Prohibition-era drama. The style, the sneaking around to get a drink, the cool guns that the mobsters used. You too? Let me know what you think in the comments section, and share your theories as well. I kinda love them. I half wonder if the Duttons were involved in bootlegging somehow, but now I'm just writing my own script. All we know officially about 1932 is that it will introduce the next generation of Duttons, and it takes place 49 years after 1883 ends. That means James Dutton's son will be about 54 years old, and Margaret would be about 75 years old. I say this because she indicates during 1883 that she had Elsa Dutton when she was about 17 or 18 years old. Elsa is 18 during the show, so you can do the math there. James seemed slightly older, but in that same ballpark. And do you know who else is about 75 or 80 years old? Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren. I'm going to move quick here, but it's very possible that they'll portray the elder versions of James and Margaret Dutton, meaning that this scene ends without Margaret having to dig a grave for her husband. That's a huge spoiler. It's also just a theory, and I'm aware that my batting average on these theories isn't perfect. In fact, if you listen to the Dutton Rules podcast, you know I tend to get a little excited and ignore signs that poke holes in my theories. You can find links to that in the description section. So, here are some other possibilities, followed by some supporting evidence, i.e. how the show blew a big ol' secret last year when they announced new cast members. It's possible either Harrison or Helen portray a role similar to Sam Elliott's on 1883, where they're just adjoining stars. Maybe he or she or both of them are neighbors. Maybe they're important townsfolk. I think we can all agree that they're too old to be playing Little John Dutton, right? Outsider once pointed out that there are two other unknown Duttons buried in the family cemetery, Chance and Ned. I've always brushed past this detail because we see it in season 1 of Yellowstone, before 1883 was even a thing, and it wouldn't be the first time that Taylor Sheridan twisted facts from one show to suit another. Side note, I'm pretty sure we nailed the relationship between Tim McGraw's James Dutton and Kevin Costner's John Dutton. You can find a link to that explanation in the video and in the description section below. The very first Yellowstone video we ever did was this video, which gives my theory a little bit of water. It was July 2021 and the show announced new characters to the show, including Finn Little, who plays Carter, and I'm just going to let me explain it. Remember, at this time the big question was if Beth, John, or Casey were killed in a Season 3 attack on the family. A new character named Carter arrives in Season 4. He's played by Finn Little and is described as, quote, a young boy reminiscent of a young Rip. Beth decides the ranch is the best place to teach him a lesson on how to be a man. Making these kinds of decisions and actively participating in the teaching of said lessons is kind of difficult for the dead, so Beth will keep on keeping on in Season 4. So, long story short, they've revealed who lives and who dies in cast announcements before. I'm willing to bet a beer that I'm right about the fate of James Dutton as well. Who's with me? Last thing before we split, Yellowstone Season 5 has started filming. Officially, it began on May 16th in Montana, and it's going to continue through August. Season 5 will now include 2 7-episode halves starting in the fall. We also know there will be a few encore episodes of 1883, timeline TBD on those. And of course, there's 1932, which, per deadline, begins airing in December on Paramount+. That'd line up with how 1883 aired, meaning we may have to adjust our holiday plans around the show once again. I'm Billy Dukes for Taste of Country. Thanks for watching, and thanks for subscribing.